Everyone, so today I would like to explain about a chapter from the Practice of English Language Teaching by Jeremy Harmer entitled Sitting and Grouping Students. So let's get started. First, about whole class teaching. The advantage of whole class grouping. It reinforces a sense of belonging among the group members, something which we as teachers need to foster. If everyone is involved in the same activity, then we are all in it together, and such experiences give us points of common. Such experience give us points of common reference to talk about and use as reasons to bond with each other. And then it is suitable for activities where the teacher is acting as a control, and it is especially good for giving explanations and instruction. And then it allows teacher to gauge the mode of the class in general rather than on an individual basis. It is a good way for us to get a general understanding of students' progress. And then it is the preferred class style in many educational settings where students and teachers feel secure when the whole class is working in lockstep and under the direct authority of the teacher. And then we moved into the disadvantage of whole class grouping. It favors the group rather than the individual. Everyone is forced to do the same thing at the same time and at the same place and at the same pace. And then individual students do not have much of a chance to say anything on their own. And many students are disinclined to participate in front of the whole class since to do so bring with it the risk of public failure. And then it may not encourage students to take responsibility for their own learning. And the whole class teaching favors the transmission of knowledge from teacher to student rather than having student discover things or research things for themselves. It is not the best way to organize communicative language teaching or specifically task-based sequence. Communication between individuals is more difficult in a group of 30 until 40 than it is in a group of 4 or 5. And then this is a teacher about sitting whole group classes. There are considerable advantage to orderly row sitting. The teacher has a clear view of all the students, and the students can all see the teacher. Classes which are arranged in a circle make quite a strong statement about what the teacher and the students believe in. With all the people in the room sitting in this arrangement, there is a far greater feeling of equality than when the teacher stays out at the front. And then for separate table seating is especially useful in mixed ability classes, where different groups of students can benefit from concentrating of different tasks. And then we moved into the students on their own. At the opposite end of the spectrum from whole class grouping is the idea of students on their own, working in a pattern of individualized learning. And then this is the advantage of individualized learning. It allows teachers to respond to individual student difference in terms of pace of learning and learning style and preference. And then it is likely to be less stressful for students than performing in the whole class setting or talking in pairs or groups. And that it can develop learner autonomy and promote skills of self-reliance and investigation over teacher dependence. It can be a way of restoring peace and tranquility to a noise and chaotic situation. And then for disadvantage of individuals learning, it does not help a class develop a sense of belonging. It does not encourage cooperation in which students may be able to help and motivate each other. When combined with giving individual students different tasks, it means a great deal more thought and materials preparation than whole class teaching impulse. When we work with individual students as a tutor or resources, it takes much more time than interacting with the whole class. And then we move into pairs and groups. In pair work, the students can practice language together, study a text, research a language, or take part in information camp activities. And then the advantage of pair work is it dramatically increases the amount of speaking time any one student gets in the class, and it allows the students to work and interact independently without the necessary guidance of the teacher, thus promoting learner independence. And it allows teachers time to work with one or two pairs while the other students continue working. And then the disadvantage of pair work. Pair work is frequently very noisy, and some teachers and students dislike this. Teachers in particular worry that they will lose control of their class, and that neighboring classes will be disturbed. And and then student working in pairs can often veer away from the point of an exercise, talking about something else completely, often in their first language. The change of misbehavior are clearer with pair work than in a whole class setting. And then it is not always popular with students, many of whom feel they would rather relate to the teacher as individuals than interact with another learner who may be just as linguistically weak as they are. And then the actual choice of paired partner can be problematic, especially if students frequently find themselves working with someone they are not keen on. And then we moved into the group work. Advantage of group work are like pair work, it dramatically increases the talking opportunities for individual students. Unlike pair work, because there are more than two people in the group, personal relationships are usually less problematic. There is also a greater chance of different opinions and fair contribution that in pair work. And then it encourage broader skills of cooperation and negotiation than pair work, and yet it's more private than working in front of the whole class. And it promotes learner autonomy by allowing the students. And then for the disadvantage of the group work, it is likely to be noise. For some teachers feel that they lost control and that the sense of cohesion which has been painstakingly built up in a whole class activity may dissipate when the class is split into smaller entities. Not all students enjoy it since they would prefer to be the focus of the teacher's attention rather than working with their peers. Sometimes students find themselves in uncongenial groups and wish they could be somewhere else. And then individuals may fall into group roles that become fossilist, so that some are passive whereas others may dominate. And then groups can take longer to organize than pairs. Beginning and ending group work activities, especially where people move around the class, can take time and can be chaotic. And then deciding when to put the students in groups and pair when to teach the whole class or when to let individuals get on with it on their own will depend upon a number of factors. The first is the task. If we want to give the students a quick chance to think about an issue which we'll be focusing on later, and then variety and sequence. The advantage of having different student grouping is that they help to provide variety, thus sustaining motivation. And then the mood. Crucial to our decision about what groupings to use is the mood of our students. Changing the grouping of a class can be a good way to change its mood when required. And then we moved on organizing pair work and group work. One way to discuss pair work and group work is to do a group activity with the students, and then when it is over, ask them to write and say how they feel about it. Alternatively, we can initiate a discussion about different groupings as a prelude to the use of group work and pair work. This could be done by having the students complete sentences such as in the picture of the slide. And then for how to creating pairs and groups, the first, the students choose. A key consideration when putting students in pairs or groups is to make sure that we put friends with friends. And then grouping by ability. We can create groups where all the students in a group are at the same level. And then change. We can also group students by change, that is for no special reasons of friendship, ability, or level or of participation. And then the task. If the task is about people who are interested in particular leisure activities, that might determine who works with whom. And then changing groups. Just because we put students in group at the beginning of an activity doesn't mean that they have to stay in the same groups until the end. The group may change while an activity continues. And then our role in pair work and group work doesn't end when we have decided which students should work together. Of course, we have other matters to address too, not only before the activity starts, but also during and after it. For before, when we want our students to work together in pairs or groups, we will try to ensure that they feel enthusiastic about what they are going to do. They need to be clear and they need to be very clear about the procedure we want them to follow, and they need to be given an idea of when they will have finished the task. And then in touring, while our students are working in pairs and groups, we have a number of options. We could, for instance, stand at the front of the side of the class and keep an eye on what is happening. Nothing who appears to be stuck, disengaged, or about to finish. And then for after, when peers and groups stop working together, we need to organize feedback because perhaps the task is not the main purpose. What is important is debriefing afterwards. We want to let them discuss what occurred during the group work sessions and where necessary at our own assessment and make corrections. And then when we monitor peers and groups during a group work activity, we are seeing how well they are doing and deciding whether or not to go over and intervene. But we are also keeping our eyes open for problems which we can resolve either on the spot or in the future. The first is finishing first. A problem that frequently occurs when students are working in pairs or groups is that some of them finish earlier than others and or show clearly that they have had enough of the activity and want to do something else. One way of avoiding the problems we have mentioned here is to have a series of challenging task-related extensions for early finishers so that when a group finishes first, we can give them an activity to complete while they are waiting. And then awkward groups. When students are working in pairs or groups, we need to observe how well they interact together. Even where we have made our best judgments based on friendship or streaming, we can try to ensure maximum participation from each of its members by giving different roles to each person, such as a chairwoman, and then a recorder, and then who writes down what is happening, a language monitor, and many more. Okay, so that's all about chapter 10, and thank you for your attention.